I'd like to call the Derry Conservation Commission meeting to order. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Emergency exits are located in the back of this room and to my right. If there's an emergency, please don't use the elevator, use the stairway. If you need assistance, ask one of the commissioners for help. Please everyone silence your cell phones, both commissioners and people in the audience. And we'll start off with introduction of commissioners, starting to my right.
Jay Hildreth.
Richard Metz.
Bob Spurl.
Eileen Chabot, good evening.
Elizabeth Carver.
And I'm the chair, Rick Bazanga. We are going to push the approval of minutes of our meeting, our previous meeting, to our next meeting on 5/19. Chair's report, all I have is some correspondence, and I think I sent this out to an email, as an email to everybody. CELT is putting on the Power of Native Plants. It's a walk. I also have a postcard, so I'm going to start this off to my right. You can look it over. You have to RSVP. It's on May 14th. You have to RSVP on the bottom if you want to join that walk. And we will move right along. That's the only correspondence we have. We'll move along committee reports, starting with Commissioner Metz, personnel.
I have no personnel to report on tonight, other than Beth is doing a terrific job so far. She's our personnel.
Thank you.
And Tammy's back.
And Tammy's back from vacation.
Any report from Eileen, state compliance?
No report this evening.
Okay, as far as land acquisition, we're still pursuing a property. We'll be having a non-public as it continues to develop. And Mr. Spurl, anything on land maintenance?
Nope, we're gonna set up another walk.
Okay, reporting compliance, we don't have a report on that. Anything on TRC, Mr. Metz?
I attended a TRC 2 Fridays ago on Abbott Court. We don't have any direct interest. Well, we do have an interest in it, but it's nothing that is going to affect the development of the project. That's a brownfield site from many, many years ago. There's several test wells that are maintained on the property. The only thing that needs to be done is there are a couple test wells that have to be moved because they would be in the footprint of the building on Abbott Court. So any further meetings for that, I will definitely follow up with and report if there's any changes.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Ms. Reisdorf is out this evening, so we will not have a public outreach report. Our land manager, Beth Carver, may talk a little bit about that in her report, because there is some activity on that. I'd like to welcome land manager Beth Carver. Do you want to do it from there, or do you want to come up front?
I'm going to go up there. I think I'll probably, as a rule,
Go
do
up
it
there?
from there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now, hopefully I remember how to do this. Grab this. I should just do this at the beginning of the meeting. Now that it's plugged in and ready to go. Just leave it here. If we don't have a. Okay, push the button. No. Is this? Sorry. Owen? I'm so sorry. Owen?
Oh, and need your help?
I'm so sorry. I thought I remembered this time. But I can't tell if this mouse is connected or if I'm supposed to use my mouse. It's this mouse, right? No, it's just my mouse? Okay, I'm sorry for such a basic question. Okay, and now this comes down and goes right up here. Ta-da, okay. All right, so, first couple things that actually aren't on here that I wanted to adjust. One was, well, I guess one of them is on here, which is public outreach. So, yes, so we will soon have access that I'll be able to edit the Conservation Commission web pages on the town website, and we'll see that a lot of them are outdated. Oh, I'm sorry. What happened? Oop. Ah. Okay, there we go. No. So sorry. No. Go back. Okay. Okay, so we'll be able to update the town web pages, and we'll see in the report that that's needed. So that's for public outreach. And then also for reporting compliance, I realized I did not reach out to Eileen about this, but we did get an email from LCHIP
Yeah?
that the reporting is now open and like we're able to like send in our reports. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know about that, and that I'll be doing that, and I'll reach out to you if needed.
Okay.
Okay, so I was able to meet Clint Havens today.
Excuse me one second, Beth.
Yes.
So Eileen is, she's chairing the state compliance, which is like dredge and fill permits and stuff like that.
Great.
The regular reporting compliance is a vacant seat right now, so for the time being, I'll assume that responsibility until we have a commissioner take that on.
Okay, great to know, because that was one of my questions, is what's the difference between state compliance and reporting compliance? I did not know that,
So reporting would be CELT and LCHIP
Right,
and all that
okay,
stuff.
okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so tools needed to really start with, doing some of the trail maintenance stuff. I was able to get a good chunk of tools from Clint Havens over at DPW, and he actually was very kind enough to put together like a little shopping cart of tools for us. So we are gonna actually have that stored at DPW so that when we have events and we have volunteers come out and we need more of those tools, we can have them without anybody having to like keep them in their shed or, on their personal property. So we have that. And these are the items that I was able to get from DPW: orange vests, stick and grabbers for trash pickup, the blue bags, and loppers. The things that I think a hedge trimmer, my personal opinion, a hedge trimmer would allow me to do a lot of like on the fly trail widening of just like quickly kind of going around and getting like the little branches almost just as I go and as I'm doing my regular walks. So I have that on there, and then a backpack to just be able to hold to have a dedicated backpack for all of that stuff. So those were the things that he was not able to get. And then spray paint. So Clint handed me a can of pink spray paint, and I know last meeting we voted on red and yellow. And he mentioned the dig safe colors, right? So like when you call dig safe, and not that these are gonna be on the ground, but he did mention it as, these colors sort of like send up a flag to him. So pink and white are neutral colors, or colors that don't have like an associated, electric, sewer, communications, that kind of thing. And he actually gave me a can of pink spray paint. So we do have pink spray paint, though we voted for our colors to be red and yellow, which we could keep, but I thought it prudent to bring up that those colors do have specific designations
What about
with DigSafe.
green? What about green rather than pink? Like
Yes, so green is
something that kind of fits into the aesthetics of the woods better.
Sewer drainage.
Yeah. Well, I think two things with green. One is it does have a designation for sewer and drainage. Probably not going to think
But
that
in
it's
the
sewer
woods,
and
I
drain,
mean,
and
it's
if
not
you're
gonna-
like tagging a
Not gonna be
tree.
a sewer and drainage in the woods.
The only other thing that I could see is it might be potentially difficult to see, right? If you're looking for green in the woods and
Depends on the
it's-
color of green.
Yeah, right. If it's surrounded by green, it might make it harder to see.
Is there a designation for yellow, Beth?
There is, yeah, gas, oil. Yeah.
So the green, that fluorescent green that they use on construction sites might show up pretty well.
Yeah,
Safety
yeah,
green.
and yellow, I mean, yellow's a safety color, you know, and yeah, for gas and oil, but you're not gonna find that in the woods, so I think yellow is still a safe color to use.
What was yellow again, for gas?
Gas, yeah.
Gas
I
roasting.
don't think you're gonna find that in the woods, like it's,
Yeah, I think, and that's what Clint said was like, you're probably not going to find, you know, any of these things in the woods necessarily. But
So does that
he
mean that-
mentioned
so
it.
we
I thought
can
it was
stay-
worth mentioning.
So we can stay with red and yellow then?
We could stay with red and yellow, yeah. So we'll
I think
just need to
that's- I think
purchase
that's
those.
safe, Yeah,
Yeah,
I
good.
think that's.
Yeah, we'll need to purchase those Kansas spray paint then. And then things that maybe someday would be nice to have: handsaw, pole saw. I mean, it depends on how much, on what we're going to be having DPW do and what I'd be capable of doing, or / volunteers would be capable of doing, as far as like a handsaw and a pole saw goes. And then snowshoes and spikes, which Bob had when we went on our last hike. And I don't think that an iPad is anything that's going to be necessary now, or honestly anytime in the future, but I had that on there from before. Okay, so for software, I am just using a free app on my phone, which honestly works pretty well. The town also has a much nicer GPS tracker that we can use if we want to do more detailed stuff. So you know what? Put a little check right there. And then for file storage, you've seen, like, I have the OneDrive on the, you know, the town OneDrive, but I was wondering where, like, I know that there are archives somewhere that have been mentioned before as far as like what our current file storage system looks like, because everything that I have now has sort of, you know, been created from scratch by me, but obviously there's a lot of information that I don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Paper or digital?
Either, really. Just like, I don't know what,
So paper, we have like 4 file cabinets on the second floor.
on the second floor.
Right,
Okay, so 4 file cabinets.
And I'm not sure how it's already been started, but the system that we use in the state is it's under the property name.
Okay,
So because you have multiple properties, each one would be, so if you save some GPS files, it would go into that file and then either separated by, you could list it as trail walk and then the date, so that you know.
Yeah, you
if
should
some-
have a uniform nomenclature,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
that it
okay,
kind of
then,
fits.
you know what?
Yeah.
Bob, I'll go over that maybe with you,
Yep.
if I may.
Yep.
Yeah, outside the meeting in more detail.
And Beth, if you want me to show you that area on the way out, I can show it to you.
That would be great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Do you have a pass card yet?
I do, it's right
Okay.
here.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'll show you that on the way out.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so that puts that to bed. Oh, no, it doesn't, sorry. ArcGIS. So I don't have an ArcGIS account, but the town does. I honestly don't know what's involved with getting that. I know it does cost money. I am running into, especially when like putting together these trail assessment reports, it would certainly be helpful to have an account. And they do have like free training online as far as that. And I mean, Land Manager kind of feels like ArcGIS should be
So-
in my back pocket.
Yeah, I'm sure the town has an account, and then there's an
It would just be
administrator
paying
for
the
that.
license, right? They'd have to get her a license.
Yeah.
Not a separate license, you'd be under the administrator.
The
Whoever
town-
holds it here, they could add you on.
Well, the town has so many licenses,
I'm
so
sure
they'd
they have
probably
somebody,
need one for
right.
her, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they
Okay.
probably already have an accountant license, and then under that, there's an administrator, and they can add more people. Not necessarily that it's free, but they can
No,
add
it
more
won't be
people,
free.
and you do
Right.
it with that person.
Yeah. So I guess my question is just, I can pursue that. I know, I can reach out to Doug. He is the GIS person. If that is something that you all feel I should do and I should have access to.
I think it'd be worthwhile, so you
Yeah.
can make maps and,
Yeah.
really keep
Wouldn't
track of the trails.
wouldn't that be part of this whole cleaning up the maps and trails? I mean,
Yeah.
he's given you access to the web account, right? Or is that, no, that hasn't happened yet.
That hasn't
You're in
happened
the
yet.
process of getting that.
Yep.
So this would be another step or a
Exactly.
sub-step or whatever that you need to do all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that it would allow me, and especially with, Doug's the IT manager, right? So he's got a lot on his plate. I think that me being able to use some of the ArcGIS stuff might help us move forward on the
Yeah.
trail modernization stuff.
Definitely.
Okay, so I will pursue that.
Why don't we have Mr. Metz send Doug an email as chair of that committee,
Okay,
saying that if we could get you granted access to the town's ArcGIS account.
sounds great.
The only
Thank
thing
you.
thinking on that would be they're probably gonna wanna take that out of conservation
Yeah, right.
money.
Well, let's ask him for authorization
Find out what it's
first.
gonna
and then-
cost.
Yeah.
Cross that bridge when we get to it.
Because
It's not free.
if that is too much, certainly you can use granite.
Yes, which I have been. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's not as whiz-bang as the rest, but you can
Right.
create
Yeah,
maps
you can
and,
create
Yeah.
maps with that.
Yeah, and I
I've
think
used it
like
before, too.
I have I didn't do a trail assessment report for Broadview, just in the interest of time, but I did. You'll see sort of the things that I'm running into with using New Hampshire Granite and Google Earth Pro, which are both free.
Yep.
Along with the GPX tracker, so it works. It definitely works.
Granite is sometimes really slow to,
Yeah.
yeah, you have
Actually,
to have a
yes,
good
and-
link for it. but-
yeah, honestly, it's been fine for me. I
Has
think
it?
that
yeah.
the issue that I'm running into is that it could look a lot more professional than
Yeah.
having to kind of like take screenshots and like put things together, you know what I mean? So that would be my reasoning. Okay, so speaking of, so the trail map sample. So Doug Rathburn was nice enough to make this for us before our last meeting 2 Fridays ago. I'm gonna go ahead and make it so you can see all of this. Oh, really? Window size, maybe? There we go. So, this was a result of the meetings that Rick Metz and I have had with Doug Rathburn. He put this together as a sample for us to just evaluate and see if this is how we would like, if this is what we would like the standard, basically, for our conservation maps to look like. So as we start to think about modernizing these maps, we need to have a standard so that they can all look the same. And this is what he has so far for us to pick apart.
Because we had talked about putting topo in there. We don't need topo, right? Or do we?
Topo is helpful, especially when, if there are hills and, along the trail, so people know, what they're getting into.
What they're getting
before they
into.
go for the walk.
Yeah,
That's a good thought.
Choosing the right interval would be really important. You don't want to have too many lines so that it's interfering.
Right, so it makes sense, right, yeah.
You know, I wonder if, because we were looking at Broadview, right? And Rick, if you remember, he showed us sort of the different base maps that you can use. And I wonder if, right, like Colette's Mountain, obviously.
Yes, Colette Mountain has some real
Yeah.
elevation to it.
Right,
Yes.
whereas like this is very flat. So
Right.
I think, you know, when we were using this property to ask that question,
Yeah, so there's a standard that National Parks does for the trails, and it gives, I think it's 5 points. One is the total distance. One is the elevation change, maximum camber, I think they call it, which would be left-right if you're on a kind of a side slope and stuff. Any steps or any low overhangs. It's available. We can grab it for you. But the determination is that makes it more accessible, because instead of telling somebody the trail is steep or it might be too steep for them, you just present the grade and they can determine whether it's a trail
Whether they're
that they can
comfortable
do
with
or
it,
not.
right.
very cool. So there's like a rating
It
system,
just
like a
gives you the basic
standard rating
information you
system.
need, and yeah,
Very cool. Okay.
that's under national parks. I think it's under accessibility or something. but-
Okay. And now with that, would we need to
You wouldn't
make
need to
those?
necessarily do it on signs, because those get pretty busy, but certainly on a leaflet or on the kiosk, you could have that information so that they could.
But I guess I mean is, do those numbers exist already, or would we need to determine those numbers? You know what I mean? Because like for the national parks one,
Right. We'll have to see, because they were actually promoting a device, almost looked like a baby stroller. You just walk it up the trail, and it would gather all that together
so
for
cool.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay.
Yep.
Beth, on the digital piece, I wonder if there would be a potential that if you selected the conservation property, because it's an overlay, it should be fairly easy to add the overlay, so the person would be able to select Broadview Farm. And then there would be, you know, two boxes. Maybe one would be trails, second would be elevations that they could choose, and they could see that, so they would have the base map. Then the second map would be the trail system, and the third button could be the overlay for the elevations.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of like different maps for different folks, depending on
Yeah,
what
so
you're
you'd
looking
have the
for.
map and then overlays based on what people, you know, some people want the elevations because they're looking for a more strenuous hike. Others people
Yeah.
don't.
Right.
So,
So like this could be, you know, whatever, 3 pages or however
Yeah,
many
so
different.
once you have the map up, then there would just be buttons on it for the overlays. Kind of
Okay.
like, that's how ArcGIS actually
Yeah.
works. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, the different
interface,
layers.
right?
Beth,
Okay.
what about the colors too? You have on the map, you have you know, the different lines. You have purple, blue, and yellow, it looks like here.
Yep.
So would there be a color key to help people differentiate whether that's, you know, whether that's a particular trail they're looking at, or what, you know, what the different colors mean?
There could be, if we want to do that. Yeah. This is a sample. So like he
Yeah.
put together, you know,
I think that would be helpful.
the different colors. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
could add a key.
The only thing with having multiple colors.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Starts to come, number one, having all the colors available, but
True.
also,
but see how
you
many
know, if you
different colors
started
there
out
are?
here and you
Yeah.
wanted to go up there,
Yeah,
this yellow should actually come all the way down here, and therefore now
right.
you're gonna have a red, yellow, and then
well,
a
that's
blue,
what,
yellow trail,
yeah, I was
and
just
then
kind
the
of
yellow
asking
trail,
why
and-
we have all these I mean, we have one, two, see, one, two, I think we have 4
Three
colors
colors,
there,
yeah.
yeah, because we have
Five.
like
Yeah.
a turquoise over here, we have blue, and then we have the purple running down the middle, and we have yellow running towards the back, so, yeah, we have 4 colors, so. I'm
So we
just-
could, if yellow is our trail color and red is our boundary color on the maps, we
Yeah,
could
that
keep
would
it
make
that
it
way. We
easier.
could just keep it
Yeah.
yellow.
That would
All-
make it a lot easier.
Yeah, so trails yellow.
More useful usually out on the trail like that is at the junctions, you would have a sign, which we discussed, that indicated the trails that you're on so that you could orient on the map.
Right, because you
also.
may have various
Because the
trails,
color-
definitely, yeah.
Color, you know,
Yep.
Yeah, Doug had mentioned naming all of the trails might be, trying to think of the right word, a bear, I don't know. Like it might be difficult to like name all of the trails. And I'm not sure if that's what if it would be a named trail, like with the signs, or,
that may be something that we could actually enjoy and get the public involved in, is
yes,
naming the
I
trails.
love that
Right.
idea.
So,
Yes.
you know, you go over to like Bear Brook State Park, and we have Ferret, the Possum
Oh,
Trail,
everything is
Bear
named,
Trail,
yeah,
you
right,
know, and,
yeah.
or maybe, you know, it may be, Overlook. You could have Overlook Trail because it goes over and looks over, or Big Rock Trail, or,
Yeah,
we have one, Bear Brook, called Split Boulder, and there's a large, it's a house-sized stone that you walk through the middle of it.
Right.
Split Boulder Trail, once you've been on it, you know exactly what's there, and
yeah,
And on a really large property, you might have that, you might have 4 colors. And you might just have blocks of that color to let people know, hey, this is the blue trail, this is the yellow trail, and so on. I've had that experience in Hampstead, that's how they do it. They have a little square with the color so that as you're going along, oh, yep, I'm still on the purple trail, And then they have at various intervals signs about, this is the way back to the parking lot, to help people, because there's a lot of junctures where, purple might cross with yellow, and, you're trying to figure out where to get back to the parking lot.
right,
There's a little tiny sign that tells you,
okay.
so.
we had talked about that walking the trail, is that, Appalachian Trail and US Forest Service standard,
Yeah,
the 2x6, or think about a dollar bill.
Right.
Vertically
Small.
oriented,
Yep.
painted crisp.
yep,
It's important that it gets painted crisp so that it stands out, because your eye will pick out it's an unnatural shape in the
right, when you're
woods.
at that junction, you want
So
to have it
the-
eye level, yeah.
The problem with signs,
Yeah,
they can have a tendency to get stolen
Hmm.
as a prize at
yeah.
home, especially the plastic ones like this. They make perfect beer coasters. And so the painted on the tree can't be vandalized as easily. They'll last roughly 10 years,
okay,
and they need to be touched up.
Okay.
So that, like I said, naming the trails, if they don't already have on our maps any kind of names or anything, that might be something to involve the
Yeah.
public.
Sounds like a fun public outreach effort, for sure. Do y'all have any other comments on our lovely map?
Looks
Yeah,
good.
I feel like I've got a lot to bring back to Doug. I'm gonna, after this meeting, kind of write up, what all y'all said, and just let him know sort of what your thoughts are, so we can get sort of the next iteration together for our future meeting.
Beth, are you working only with Doug Rathburn, or are you working with Doug Brown also in that office?
Just Doug Rathburn for the GIS stuff, yep, and Rick Metz, yep. Okay. That's to bed. All right, so we've got the 2 problem trees at 15 Pond Road that we voted on appropriating funds for at the last meeting. Those are coming down this Wednesday at 7 a.m. And in my communications with Clint Havens, he had mentioned to gain access to the remaining dead trees that are on the line of our the Shepherd Conservation property, that it may involve creating a temporary drive and sort of clearing the way for the bucket trucks and large vehicles that they have to deal with those problems. So parking at our conservation properties is something that we discussed as being a need at conservation properties, especially Shepherd, I think, which does not have any parking to speak of currently. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I did look at the uses and restrictions for that site, and it appears based on that there used to be an unpaved parking area right where
On Pond Street? I
where
think.
we're talking about. I mean, this is coming from the book that Margie shared with Rick and Rick gave to me. And then Jay miraculously emailed me a digital copy so we can search digitally, which is wonderful. So this is coming from that. A picnic area was constructed in a 200 by 200 foot area along Pond Road. The picnic area includes an outdoor cooking area and unpaved parking area. So I don't know when this was written or when this was from, but that's it. I guess assuming it's allowed since that has been in there. So that's just sort of the status of that. And that would be a project to take on as far as if that's something that we want to pursue. But I wanted all of you to know that is out there, that possibility is out there.
We've, Chairman Degnan and I, along with Will Lowenthal, did a work party there a few years ago, repairing that picnic table that's there and dealing. And I think that post the parking lot, there was a drainage swale put in at the edge of the road there. So if we were going to reintroduce that original parking area, it would require some drainage mitigation
Yeah.
to cover that swale.
Are you talking like a culvert or a?
Yeah, right now it's just an open swale.
Okay.
So we would have to, in order to access that area, they'd have to. Nothing really complicated. It's just sheet flow from the street.
Yeah.
So,
I believe that is something that Clinton Havens mentioned in his email as well.
Yeah. So it would need a corrugated pipe and some crushed stone and stuff like that. Nothing really critical. But it would need to be redone. That would need to be done. And I think that's why that parking area kind of just overgrew. The swale went in, or maybe the swale was just naturally made. It could have been naturally made, and that prevented any more access for vehicles. So maybe you could, because that's the area that we're going to have to get in for that tree removal, right? Same thing. Yeah, so at that point, maybe a discussion with Clint would be worthwhile.
Yeah. So he had mentioned potentially needing, right, because like when you have a curb cut and you have like a driveway entrance, right, that needs to be approved. I don't know if it was existing before. It wouldn't necessarily need to, but I'm not sure the process. But if you want me to dig into that, I will add that to my list of things to dig into, I guess. I just want to make sure that's something I should invest the time into.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to need to get a curb cut because there's no curb there. So we would just need to, I think a discussion with him of what it would take would probably be the initial discussion, and then bring that information back to us, and then I think we'll move forward from there.
Sounds great. All right.
Beth, I had a question about the outdoor cooking area.
Yeah.
What does that consist of?
I don't know any more about it than what's on than what was in the
description.
Yeah.
So we have not seen it.
Correct. Yeah. I don't know if Rick, if you have.
It was just basically a circle of rocks with a campfire is all it was, next to the picnic table.
Is it requiring a permit, or is it under 3 feet so you can?
So that would be a question for the fire department. It would depend on the stage of, I don't think I can answer that. It would be a question for the fire department.
Yeah.
Just a thought about that is that because it's conservation property, I would imagine that regardless of whether you're allowed, because a cooking fire, right, you're allowed to have any time. But I think because it's on conservation property, regardless of the size of the fire, you would need permission. I assume you would need
You need a
permission.
fire permit, yeah.
If there, were there picnic tables and fire pits there or not?
There was, yeah, there was picnic tables and a fire, we'll call it a fire ring
So it's no longer there,
On the
Beth?
ground?
on the ground.
Yeah, that
Is there
would
no
require
longer
maintenance and
picnic
have the
tables
fire
there?
department verify
know?
that it's
Not that I
okay to
can
have,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, so
You
the fire,
haven't
that would be a fire department question.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the parks now have the raised pedestals so that it's not on the ground and wouldn't burn into the ground.
All right, so if people
Or
can have
that we could specify that they can't have any open fire, but you could use like a grill.
okay,
Like a camping stove.
okay. Next item, we covered access to edit the web pages. And you know what, before we dive into the Broadview Farm Community Garden, so reviewing the committee assignments. So thank you for clarifying the difference between state and reporting compliance. The fire mitigation project, I was realizing, I'm not sure if that goes under trail maintenance umbrella. It feels like that, but then there's also that folder in my drive is getting pretty big, right? Like most things are kind of under land maintenance. So I just wanted to confirm if I should report to Bob on that or just keep bringing updates to the meetings. Just a little clarification on the fire mitigation project.
I think it would fall into land maintenance. And under new business, I'll bring over, under business, I'll bring up some thoughts I have on committee assignments.
Sounds good. Okay, so Broadview Farm Community Garden. So we do need 63 48-inch wooden stakes, which would cost $62.37 if purchased from Benson's Lumber and Hardware in Londonderry. So we need a motion on that.
So I'd move to approve the amount of $62.37 for the acquisition of 63 4-foot wooden stakes for Broadview Farm to be taken out of the administration or conservation account?
No, it could be administrative.
Administration, the administration account.
I'd like to offer a friendly
Sure.
amendment. Maybe the motion can be something like up to $70 as opposed to $62.37.
Okay, I'll accept that.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to spend up to $70 to buy wooden stakes for the community garden by Mr. Metz. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
The second by Eileen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. It's unanimous.
Thank you, good idea. The day that I called, they were 99 cents a piece, but who knows? Okay, and then, so for both of those things, we already approved the payment for the tilling. However, when I met with Will Lowenthal, he said that Noah Duarte needs to be paid the day the services are rendered. And in the past, Will had like paid him and then submitted for reimbursement. I also emailed Sheila recently, Sheila Bodenrader, about the whether I could get a check to give to Tree Line on Wednesday when they come, and she said that they generally pay via invoice after the services have been provided. So I guess I'm just not sure what to do about the tilling, right? If we need to submit an invoice, and that's the town's policy, but Noah needs payment at the time of services, how would you like me to proceed?
So Tree Line accepted that they'll build the town? Did Tree Line accept that?
You know, I'll admit I didn't even tell him. I just was going to tell him on Wednesday.
Yeah, Yeah, you should reach out to them in advance. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they'll
They'll be okay with it.
they'll be fine with that.
Yeah,
As far as did we approve the amount already?
correct. Yes, we did.
How much was it?
Good question. 350, I think, from memory. But I can find out in just a moment. If I can find my mouse.
$350 was in your previous notes
Thank you. Appreciate it. 350.
on May 16th.
And when is that happening?
May 16th.
Yeah,
May 16th.
well, hopefully May 16th. The rain, if we have more deluge around that time, then it won't be happening May 16th. But thereabouts.
Okay, so Eileen, could you send an email to Sheila
Mm-hmm.
and CC Beth
Okay,
that the tilling has to be paid at the time of the services, so we would need to have a check in hand for that day,
okay.
and what the process would be to do that?
Thank you very much.
And then when you get you buy the stakes, I'll need a receipt for the stakes for you to get reimbursed.
Yep.
Okay?
I will do that. Okay, so I will buy the stakes. I can float that. Okay, so that's that. Let's dive into. The slide deck.
So that amount for Noah is exactly 350? Did you clarify that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right, and present. Okay, so this is, not a trail assessment report so much as just a report on the area of the community garden. And this is just so we can see where we are in space and the boundary lines. And this came from that book, Conservation Easements. So, Jay, I don't know if you want to talk about any of this or I can, but Jay did some digging and talked to Liz Robideau in planning and got this document and noted some interesting things in our uses and restrictions, most notably the October 8th, 1998 date and 25 years from, so.
Yeah,
So-
why don't you go on and we can
Okay,
go back to that and we'll.
If I could interrupt,
yeah,
so in other business, I'm going to be announcing Jay's new position as chair of the what is it exactly, Jay? Community Garden Subcommittee. And I'm going to ask him for a report on that. So if you want to hold that for him
Sure.
for then.
Yeah.
Does that sound good, Jay? All right, cool.
yeah, I mean, the rest, that's pretty much what this whole slide deck is.
Yeah.
So I can wait on that, or I can go through it and then we can add to it afterwards.
Yeah, why don't you go through it and
Okay.
then, because I have some thoughts I want to
Okay.
get out there too.
All right, so this is kind of what you'll see if you go to the page now and you click this Broadview Farm Community Garden. We did have it updated so that people will be emailing land manager at DerryNewHampshire.org. However, in the trail modernization project, saw that this is up, which has some outdated information. So I just thought that was worth bringing up, that, right now people are getting some conflicting information as far as how to get a plot. So here's the location. It's right there next to the trail entrance on Young Road. And the rest is just pictures. So when I met with Will Lowenthal a few weeks ago now, he noted that these raised beds here that are for use of handicapped persons, so they're raised, so they don't have to like bend down to tend them, and they're in need of some repair, and they're kind of grown out with like perennial weeds. And the garden itself was looking pretty well cleaned up, except for this one person's fence was left, but for the most part, people came and took their stuff away at the end of the season. However, in my travels, I noticed there was, just refuse kind of almost stored. It almost had that kind of feeling about it, that there were fences and over here there's wood boards, pallets and things that maybe people are using for fencing, like this baby gate, and just kind of random stuff strewn about.
They look like they're composting bins. So you would put waste into one of them, fresh green, like grass clippings and leaves and stuff, let it turn over for a while, and then you put it into the next
Yeah.
bin and mix it, and then, okay.
Yes.
So that's what those bins are. Whether
Yeah.
they're maintained or not is another
Well,
matter.
okay, so yes, so these structures, these are the bins for sure. But inside the bins and leaning against the bins and sort of like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the sides and even behind the bins, I found like fencing and stuff like that. So one, there's kind of refuse around. Two, these two very large compost bins have been clearly abandoned. They're grown up with, like, they have some thorns, like some thorny woody, weeds in there. There are, there's like a sumac tree kind of, so they're not like actively being used
Yeah,
for composting. But they certainly could be. Like, they're in good shape. They're not like breaking down or decomposing the way another compost bin that you'll see is. But they definitely could be in use. They're actually in good shape, besides the fact that that there's just kind of refuse being stored there, and the weeds and such. All right, so there's that. So okay,
that
Those
sounds-
are way big,
So here we
even for
go.
that garden.
yeah, they're huge. They're huge.
The one to the left is the correct size for that
Right.
area.
Yeah.
They were made that big because Phil used to come in with his tractor and turn them over with machinery. That's why they were so big.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Very cool.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, so this is the wooden one, and unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of the good compost bin, but Will Lowenthal built a 3-bin, just like this wooden one here, a 3-bin compost system with plastic pallets, which is still in good working order. It's definitely usable, right?
Now,
So we can
is that
definitely.
one in active use right now?
Well, define active use, because I would be the one turning it at this point, right?
Okay.
I would say it appears like some gardeners may have put some of their like garden debris in there, but I don't know how much use it's getting from gardeners.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, so there's definitely potential there. This one, is obviously kind of fallen apart at this point. I don't know if it's salvageable, maybe. And then, there's fencing here. So this is just kind of the idea is like, I don't know if gardeners are maybe storing their fencing there intentionally. So this is what I did.
Sounds like maybe some education needs to happen
Yeah.
with the gardeners to inform them what the procedure is.
Yeah.
Maybe encourage them to use the compost bins,
Yeah.
just
Yep.
do a little education with them and,
Yeah, and I think
And-
probably Jay will talk about some of the ideas that we've bounced around as far as,
discourage the use,
Yeah.
throwing the fencing and
Yeah.
pallets against the.
So I did pull all the fencing that I found out before the vegetation kind of grew up and around it, right?
Right.
And I put it all in one place. The thought being, it could be, take it if you need it, sort of a section of the garden, right? Or it's all in one place if we need to ultimately just get rid of it. And take it to like the metal recycling or something like that. But yeah, so I did some cleanup there while I could because I couldn't leave it like that. And got a bag of trash as well.
Thank you.
And yeah,
Does anybody know if we have ever considered just doing one fence all the way around the outside and no fences interior? If the fences are to keep out wildlife, essentially, it may be better for us to maintain it rather than end up with everybody trying to do their own thing.
Individual fence.
Exactly,
yeah,
I agree.
Just a consideration.
Because that can look kind of messy after a while.
It
too.
does.
that's a very interesting thought. So these,
The farmer always loses, no
yeah,
matter how many fences you have up.
yeah. Yeah, right. Deer fence. I don't know. That's another thing. Deer like to, if you give them a wide open space on the inside, they'll jump it. So these 3 plots were, I know from being at the garden last year. Well, I'll say this one was mine.
Yeah.
So I'm a little biased. And these 2 were a couple of my neighbors there, or neighbors of the community garden. And they were just very well maintained. And one of the things that they did was dig paths. Like, this woman dug a path in her bed, and that helped her maintain it. And then while I was doing my paths here, I showed this is Barbara and Norma, and and they saw me doing that and decided to do that in their plot as well. And it just really helps people to maintain their plots well when they have like designated paths. So I would love to do a how to make a quick and dirty garden bed kind of a workshop thing in the future. And these actually, coincidentally, I didn't even realize this until after I put them together. These were all 3 plot people. So this is the current layout that was used, this has been used for, I'm not sure how many years, but last year at least, and since Will's been doing it. And I mentioned at the last update that we were at capacity. So Jay and I discussed how we could add some more plots. And we decided that we don't need this middle row. And to replace, basically, this is a 6-foot path. So by replacing that 6-foot path with 10-foot beds, we can get an extra 6 plots in there with no extra cost because we're still using the same amount of stakes for the whole thing. So it's just really like bumping out 4 feet in one direction or the other, which is 100% doable. So we have
And those
that.
plots will be the same size as the other ones?
And they'll be the same size. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we'll have 36, and actually, as of this morning, we're at 36.
Yeah.
So,
right.
yeah.
I think I sent one over, did I send one over this
Yes,
morning?
yep, I saw it. I got him in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, oh, with the 36, we have 1 plot left, and now we don't.
Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. So then this I put together because it was very quick and easy to do, and I just wanted to show you how it would look. I kind of renumbered them so that it was easy, right? So it's like just 1 through 6 down vertically. And then this is maybe something that we could share, like via like our social media outreach or anything like that. So to be something visually engaging for people to see and get them excited about the garden. All right, so that's that. And then I don't know if we want to get into this tonight, but the next slides are the area across the road. So this is that area that DPW had cleared. And when I was there, I did notice some water pooling issues, right? So this tree is kind of in danger. And this was, forget what date this was taken, but I know Jay sent me a picture just today. And the water is still there.
Yeah.
Well, obviously
Oh,
it
yeah.
is because it's been raining for 40 days and 40 nights.
Pretty steadily.
Yeah.
It kind of states, you know, make me a pond, make me into a pond.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it'll be trouble if we try to do anything else in that area. It'll
Yeah.
be wetlands.
It's a very, very wet area. And that's basically all these pictures are showing is, right there, this is kind of coming from the back, or this is coming from the back, and then this is where it spills over right
Is that
here.
almost like a canal there?
Yes. So that's what I was gonna,
That
it,
must have been dug out at some point?
yes, so it looks like DPW, and this is kind of where that canal is failing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's spilling over right here, and then that's where it flows over to that tree area where, you know,
Yeah, where are the leaves stored? Do we have a
Yeah,
picture of that?
we
where the
do.
leaves were stored?
So this is where the water is coming from. I just took, since we're in order of slide, but I will show you the leaves. This is like a little stream.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a vernal stream or what, but it appears to be coming from like the commercial
property?
abutter over here. Yeah. And it flows.
Oh, wow, right through the leaves.
Is that in the southern end of that property?
That is, forgive me for getting, yes, that's the southern end, correct. Yep. So like the back of the property farthest from the road is what we're looking at right now. And that's where DPW is storing those leaves. So you can see this is Young Road right here. There's the parking lot right there. So it's pretty far back. You know, I wish I had a photo of the leaves sort of in context of how big the parcel is and how small the pile of leaves is. Because one thought that I had about the leaves is that those large compost bins, the wooden ones, appear that they would volumetrically hold the amount of leaves that that DPW
That
is,
would be great.
you know, and then
That would be
gardeners
great.
could use it for
Yeah.
mulch or something like that, and it's
Yeah.
right there. So that's one thought. So yeah, so currently
And it
the
would
leaves
kind
are.
of neaten it up too, if you use
Yeah,
that,
right. Yeah, if it's being used.
So that people might not get the feeling like, oh, I can
I
dump
can
all my
just-
landscape material in there. 'Cause
Right.
that's what I was kind of nervous about when we let them do it. I was kind of
Yeah.
nervous other people might think, oh, this is a great place to just dump my landscape material.
Right. Oh, you're talking on this side of the road. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. Well, so they do have a gate. There is a gated entrance there.
okay, good.
So there's no access or possibility that
Yeah, it's far too. It's
Yeah.
you would have to drive
Yeah.
quite
I
a ways.
remember when
out.
they did it, it was nice and neat. It doesn't look so neat now, you know? It looks
Yeah.
like it's,
well, the water, I guess, probably
Yeah.
is not helping that.
right.
Yeah. Because this pile of leaves is kind of sitting in water, right? So like
Right.
this is like a little pond with like a little mini willow something or another growing right here.
Yep.
Some kind of water loving shrub. And then it kind of flows out this way, right? Towards that tree that we saw earlier is like right here.
Do we know if back when this was an operating farm, did they bury any drainage tiling in it?
I don't. No.
Certainly needs it, from what it looks like.
It would
Well,
appear not.
This is. I mean, I don't think
Right.
this.
Well, it could be, and it's just clogged, the end
Okay.
of it is plugged, but I have no idea that's
Yeah,
gonna be.
okay.
you know,
Drainage tile.
I think just about any meadow you went to in the past 2 weeks is going to look a lot like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, is
Well,
it,
this was taken
rain.
before the rain that we had.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
We
This
gotta give
was,
it a chance to dry out and then look at it.
Yeah.
yeah, we need to see later.
and then this is just kind of where the water flows over on that side, comes down here to this culvert right there.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Yep, that's it. And click to exit. I think that's the end of my, I saved that for last. So that's really, that's all there is. The trail assessment is coming, and I have identified a few projects just based on walking that trail, that we could ask like the Boy Scouts to help us with. So we can talk about that at the next meeting. That is all I have for you. Any questions?
A couple of comments. So if the fence material and just broken pallets and stuff like that, if that stuff's not claimed by the incoming gardeners, I think we could probably get Clint to come over, send some folks over to pick that up. If we maybe just moved it over closer to the side of the road. That's all I have on that. And then if you're done, we can, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. There will be no council liaison report. I talked to Councilor Foote today. He did notify me that we can invite the land manager to a non-public hearing if we think we need to do that. So we did get approval for that. And also, as far as the emergency preparedness contact person that we talked about a couple of meetings ago, that would be Mike Fowler. So that would be our point person on the emergency preparedness stuff would be Mike Fowler. I think we were asking about that during the fire risk mitigation discussion. So Fowler is the person on that. Update on conservation activities. I got to say that in the 15 years that I've been on the commission, that the amount of activity that's happening on the commission is definitely exponentially higher than it's been in the past. So it's exciting to be part of the commission. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. On other business, I have a few, and then I'll ask any commissioners if they want to add anything. But first off, Jay Hildreth has accepted the position as chair of the Community Garden Subcommittee, and him and I have been able to talk a couple of times about his ideas about what that committee is about and what he's going to make it. So I'm going to ask, why don't you you want to do a quick presentation on that, Jay, on our discussions and some of your thoughts on,
Sure.
on that committee?
Well, it was brought to my attention about this area that was cleared out, and suggested that, something could be done to develop this area. It's the southern end of Young Road. It's actually number 10 Young Road. And it looks like a blank canvas of potential activity for developing it in mind of conservation, awareness, and activities for the townspeople. It's such a central area, and it's close to the main roads. And it just invites some imaginative thinking and planning out to really do something that will, the primary purpose of our existence is to get people outdoors. And that's just what it could do if we plan it right. And so I talked to Rick about this and got the information on the deed. And the fact is that it is, we have been complying. If you read the documentation about the description and the use of the property and what it's actually been used for, we have really complied with the deeds, having a community gardens, trails, promoting trail walking and observing wildlife, the camping, it's really been done. And we're also sharing with the agricultural lands with J&F Farms Cornfield. So we're really doing all the activities. The only thing that I read on the deed that was an interesting concept, it said promoting a nature center, quote unquote. So no one's ever taken up on that, but it's certainly...
And educational activities was on there too.
Educational, yeah,
Yep.
center. And that has made me think that we could be promoting our own, all of the lands, have a display of all of the lands to make people more aware of how many holdings there are in Derry. But there's a lot of ideas. I also thought about, and Beth too, a community garden, if we can deal with this drainage issue, which I was not aware of it being that extensive, although I agree it's probably vernal and will go away. But there could be a really nice permanent community garden somewhere on that property. It's 3.4 acres, which is a pretty large spread. I really didn't like seeing those cemetery leaves there at the end, and we'll talk about that later. I think it could move them to those bins.
I think the bin, we could, but I think, so that's only 1 year of cemetery leaves. There's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot more
Yeah.
before they completely decompose. And the kind of the trade that we made with the folks in the town was that they would clear and clean that land up in return for their ability to put the leaves there. I also think there's some value in what those leaves are going to turn into,
Yeah,
and we haven't
leaf
been able to
loam.
realize that value yet. But at some point, we will be able. Jay, talk a little bit about what's going on with the restrictions on that property. I thought that
Right.
was pretty enlightening.
So the restrictions are listed in the deed, and they are, again, they're complied. We've been complying with them over the years. Now, the thing is that this covenant, as the term went, was for 25-year term, and that deed was signed in 1998. So that covenant is now expired. And it really stands, I think, for our committee to just make sure we are supporting the definition or redefining it or touching up on what it is. And we don't want to leave that gap of continuity between what the past landowners have asked for. I think it's responsible for us to do that. In
Right.
gratitude for the donation.
Yeah, and I think we need to think about. Well, I don't think we need to think about. We have to reestablish those covenants and vote them, and determine how long we want them to stand for. It's one of the few things that we as a commission can do for future commissions. So, we're the commissioners at the moment, so we can establish some long-term, I'd have to ask for some clarification on how long we can do the covenants for. There's probably some statutory limitations on how long they can last, but let's get those, let's figure out how long we can put those in. Let's all look at, if you could circulate the existing covenants to the commissioners. Let's all look at those, see if we like what's there, see if we want to change anything, and then vote to extend it as it is for however many years we can, or maybe make some changes. So I think that should be an order of business that we should try to take up and get done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, just because the covenants have termed out doesn't mean we don't continue following them as just a good practice.
Right.
Each property really should almost have like a 20-year plan.
Right.
I would think
Yeah.
20 years is pretty reasonable. And then at the end of the 20 years, you can determine whether it's still
Viable or not.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's make that a prerogative. As far as what we're going to use, I'll refer to it as the Broadview Annex until we come up with something else. But the Broadview Annex property, I think that's a tremendous opportunity for us to get public involvement and find out what the community wants to put there. So maybe we can sometime, maybe I'm going to say in the fall, to have a public hearing on that. Schedule a public hearing, notice it pretty far in advance, and let's get some people in here and see what they're, what they would like to do with that property. And obviously, we can make suggestions and explain what it would be appropriate for. But I'd like to hear from the constituents on what they think would be the ideal situation. The one thing about making it additional public gardens is we would have to address the water situation there. We would need to have a separate water source for that side of the street. I don't think lugging water across the street's a good idea. And maybe we can use what's happening with the water there to our advantage, or we can lean towards the crops or vegetation that doesn't need additional watering, things like orchards, which I don't think Conservation Commission has any type of fruit orchard. That might be a good use for part of that property. So we could have things like, if we did do a fruit orchard, we could have constituents adopt trees in that orchard and be responsible for pruning them and taking the fruit and stuff like that. So there's a lot of options that we can do that we don't have to drive another well and create a well area.
If the water is truly an issue, I kind of wait until it dries up right
Right,
now.
just
But
to reevaluate.
NRCS could certainly come in and help us with some guidelines and.
Yeah, mitigate it, sure.
planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Anyone else on other business? I have a couple more items. Does anyone have any other business they want to talk about?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Metz?
I'd like to make a motion to reimburse Chairman Bazanga $35.28 for expenses related to an initial fire mitigation meeting on March 27th, I'm sorry.
What's the amount? How much was the amount?
$35.28.
So there's a motion on the board for reimbursement of the chair for $35.28. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Spurl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? No opposition, so the treasurer can take care of that. Any
Do you have
other,
the receipt that I can, yeah, I need that.
is this all of them?
Yep.
Any other business from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, our next meeting is on May 19th, and the chair will be absent. Vice Chair Metz will be conducting that meeting.
Did any of these people come?
Tammy, did anyone from the audience have any interest in coming up? Did you? No? No, I think they're just thrilled to hear us talk. Yeah, so next meeting, 5/19, it'll be Chairman Metz. I will prepare the agenda for you, Mr. Metz,
Thank you.
just in case we have a site review. And, but I will not be attending. It's my birthday, so I'm taking that night off. One other thing for the land manager, as we explore updating our digital footprint, we'll say, in the community, I'd really like to think about getting more into social media too. I think I mentioned it to you privately. I think people kind of navigate through Instagram and Facebook, and I think it's a good way to communicate what we're doing with our constituents. So maybe you could add that to your pile.
It's on there.
It's on your pile.
It's just lower down in the pile
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so just, it might be good to keep it in with the other stuff. And I think that is all I have. We do not have a non-public this meeting. We're still, as I mentioned earlier, we're still pursuing a property. And once appropriate, we'll have another non-public. So if there's nothing else from the commissioners? No? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Metz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eileen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposition. Thank you.